Shabbat Shalom. It's a pleasure to be with all of you as we celebrate Shabbat together. As the sun is shining and perhaps spring is not so far away, it's great to be able to join in this Sabbath and really rejoice in the beauty of creation around us. So we're going to begin with an opening song. So Cantor J, welcome back. And we look forward to singing with you.
Thanks, Rabbi. And speaking of just the beauty that we're seeing in the world and maybe nudging ourselves to find the beauty in this winter, how about Ma Yafeh Hayom? How beautiful is the day we welcome Shabbat. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
We are all part of one creation, one humanity, and the seasons may change and the weather may change, but it's all part of one pattern, one world, one creation. And we proclaim that truth with the words of the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam
In the Torah, we're in the midst of reading the story of our ancestors going from slavery to freedom and then building a tabernacle in the desert. And every step along the way, we recognize as this kind of miraculous journey that brings us to where we are in the present day. So even when we look out and we see the banks of snow, there's a miracle in the snow. And when we see the sunshine, there's a miracle in that. And we have a song for that. We have a blessing. We thank God for all the miracles in our midst as we sing Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Nora tehilot osef ele, Nora tehilot osef ele, Adonai loch ve'olam bo'ed. Ay la 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 la. Ay la 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 la. Nora tehilot osef ele, Nora tehilot osef ele, Adonai loch le'olam bo'ed.
let's take a few moments for silent prayer, reflection, meditation, maybe a moment of gratitude for the gift of being together and celebrating Shabbat.
On Shabbat, we remember the word shalom means peace, but it also means wholeness. And thinking of all those around the world, around our nation, that maybe are missing some of the essentials for daily life, some of the things that we can take for granted, and the effects of climate change and everything swirling around us. Let's pray for shalom for ourselves and for those in our community around the world with Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom Imromav Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'yalko Yisrael Ve'imru Amen. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
As our thoughts turn toward healing, first we think about the healing of our planet. We think of all the storms that seem to be so strange around our nation and recognize that all of this is part of a climate crisis that we have to deal with. And so we say a prayer for our planet. Dear God, help us celebrate your awesome creation and all the life on this wondrous planet Earth. Help us feel connected to all life on this small blue planet. Life is living us. Creator of the universe, help us understand that to master our world means to take responsibility, not only for ourselves, but for all the creatures on Earth. Help us use the power you gave us to build a better living world and not casually to destroy the beauty we have borrowed from our children. We are the stewards, your partners in creation. We call on you for help and guidance. Our God, God of our ancestors and of our children, in this time of climate crisis, help us to preserve life, protect it, and defend it. We owe it to our children, those born and those yet to be. If not for us, then for them, dear God, guide us on our journey. We think too of all those who are suffering in this climate crisis around our nation, those who are suffering in this time of pandemic in our community, our nation, and around the world. In our own community, we're thinking of Marty Aronson, Aliette Auban, Benjamin Chaim Ben Saralea, Lori Cantor, Michael Dalbora, Michael Ellsworth, Marcy Epner, Michelle Felber, Marshall Gelfand, Don Goldstein, Stuart Goodman, Jim Graham, Dennis Hernrich, Donna Horton, Julian Horwich, Martin Hutensky, Alana Issakow, David Kaminsky, Trevor Keeney, Lisette Cohn Gale, Rana Kramer, Gabby Kraus, Howard Levin, Hannah Malia, Michael Maller, Barry Marum, Jana Melnikov, David Moody, Harriet Morrison, Leah Moskoff, Noach Ben David, Dave Pallister, Pesach Ben Lana Eugene, J.D. Plotnick, Mark Pullman, Rachel Yisraela Bat Chaim, Toddy Richmond, Maria Rodriguez, Nancy Roman, Roberta Rosenfeld, Marty Rudow, Sarah Bat Batsheva, Shandel Bat Batya Vanester, Jeff Slowick, Dave Stratton, Vanessa Bat Mashalevi Oshua, Lionel Watson, and Mike Zidman. We ask God to remember them all, those we name aloud and those we hold in our hearts. And after this Shabbat, bring them a refuah shlema, the complete recovery of mind, body, and spirit, as we sing the words of Misha Berach.
Berach Avoteinu Mekor habracha Leimoteinu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach Imoteinu Mekor habracha Lavoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, friends. Good to see all of you. And this week's Torah portion, it's one of my absolute favorites. I love talking about it. And then it's kind of interesting when it comes every year, just because of the contrast between where the Israelites were in the desert, in the heat, and where we are. And this Torah portion often happens in February. And the name of the Torah portion is Terumah. Terumah means gift or offering. It also means elevation, similar to aliyah, where you ascend. A truma is a different word, but it has a similar kind of ascension meaning. And the context for it is when the Israelites are in the desert, or in the wilderness, really, and they are on their way to the promised land, and they are supposed to build a tabernacle, a temporary dwelling place, a place for worship where they're going to connect with God. And the text says that they were supposed to make an offering, a truma, as their hearts so moved them. It's a beautiful, beautiful image. What's so wonderful about this is this idea of gifts. And what I truly think the Torah is trying to convey is that every person, and this is every Israelite back in the desert, and then each one of us has a unique gift that we can offer. Now, in the wilderness, in our story, it's all about a gift of a object, of a possession, something that could build the temple. So somebody may have had a brass ring. Somebody may have had a good piece of wood that could be used for the altar, whatever. People had different, so some person may have been the good, engineer. Everybody had a different gift that came together. And the sum was greater than its parts. That combining everyone's unique gifts created something that couldn't be created by one person alone. And doesn't that help us kind of understand how we can create more and produce more today? that we all bring unique gifts to whatever we do. If you've ever been, I mean, think about this, may be a good example, and I know Cantor Jay could probably talk about this much more eloquently than I could, but if you think of like a really good band, like let's say the Beatles, right? We have a congregant who's an expert on that, or he's an expert on the Beach Boys. Say Frank, if you're there. But every person in a band brings a unique gift, not just the instrument they play. One person plays guitar, one person plays drum. Each brings a different kind of personality. Each brings a different way of playing music. So you could have somebody who, has an intensity, and someone who has a soft touch. And oftentimes in a great band or a great orchestra, the combined sound brings together all those different unique talents and skills. And that's what creates this beautiful kind of music that you could never dissect and separate. And that's a really wonderful way of looking at the world. And what does that mean for us? What does that mean in terms of how we live? Well, I think it means that we have to figure out what our unique gift is. That's what I always talk with my kids about, or always try to, look for in my kids, is what's their unique passion. They may like certain things that everyone else likes, just like, any kid will, we all, belonging is an important part. We all want to belong to things that others belong to. We're social animals, but we also have to try to cultivate our own unique gifts. What brings us passion, and what are we uniquely equipped to do? Because I really think that that's almost a natural law. Just like every person is built differently, no human face is totally alike. So we all have unique gifts. And part of our challenge is figuring out what that gift is. And then once we discover that gift, using it. Many people who have wonderful gifts go through life and never really use it. It's a blessing we have members of our congregation, for example. I'm thinking of one who was a banker his whole life, and he also has an enormous talent for art, and he now creates beautiful art since he's been retired. That we have gifts that oftentimes really we may know what they are, we may not know what they are, but once we uncover them, sometimes we don't even use them. So figuring out our unique gifts and then using them, it's not just for us. It's almost something we have to do for the world. Just like in this Torah portion, that the gifts contributed to something larger. It wasn't just their own self-actualization. It's not only for ourselves that we use our gifts, it's for the world. Because the gifts that we bring contribute to something much larger than we are. And, I love that phrase, as their heart so moves them. So everyone's supposed to bring their gift. And in a sense, if you read that language, it's voluntary, but it really isn't voluntary. We are obligated to bring our gifts. It's kind of like when you go to a museum, and it's a really nice museum, and they say a suggested donation, of $5 or whatever, they really depend on that. If nobody gave that, the museum wouldn't stay open very long. So it's voluntary in the sense, on one, maybe a strictly legal sense, but it's also an obligation for us to contribute so that we build something more beautiful for everybody. And I think the same is true with our gifts, that whatever our gifts are, and the number of gifts we have is as many as the number of people there are in the world. Now, we all know that maybe think about our different friends, our different acquaintances, and the unique personalities, the unique gifts. We may call upon someone if we need financial advice. We may call upon someone else if we need marital advice, whatever. We each have these gifts that we can give to the world, and figuring out what our gift is and using it. It's not only a blessing, it's not only something that helps us become happier, it's also an obligation. So in the weeks ahead, in this time that we still have where we're not totally back to normal life, let's look for our gifts and let's try to bring them into the world. Shabbat Shalom.
Yesher Koach. And our thoughts turn to those who are no longer with us at this time. We're marking the Shiva, the 7-day mourning period for Gloria Goldblatt Gershkoff, Jacob Harris Grossman, and Suzanne Carter Meldman. And remembering the art sites this week of Bernice Bilo, Jules Blatt, Louis A. Block, Elliot Bloom, James Dorff, Ruth Eckhouse, Henry Firestone, Julius Fisher, Rhoda Fisher, Ruth Freed, Nancy Friedenberg, Robert Friedman, Selma Jacobson, Bernard Carroll, Elsa Levy Kirchheimer, Elizabeth Klein, Lester Klein, Edith Kolish, Sidney Langsam, Ellen Ruth LeBeau, William Levin, Marvin Martyr, Lillian Margolis, Norman B. Migdal, Sal Monchain, Jack Plager, Nathan Portnoy, Stephen Richardson, Angeline Ann Robin, Joseph Rosenfeld, Marvin Ross, Saul Schultz, Rose Schwartz, and Sarah Sternberg. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we praise God and pray for the coming of God's sovereignty with the ancient words of the Kaddish Yatom. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma Divra Chirute v'yamlich Malchute, B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dachol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala v'yizman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mivarach, Leolam Olme Omaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal Shmei D'Kudesha B'richu, Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shlomo Rabba min Shamaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Rabbi Mafik and Rabbi Sarada for a wonderful service. And in that spirit of bringing our unique gifts, this melody is one of my favorites for Adon Olam, and it's from the Spanish and Portuguese Jewish community. And one of the beautiful things about synagogue music is that it's created from this tapestry of all different cultures and all different musical traditions. So we'll lift up the Spanish Portuguese tradition, Adon Olam, to close things off. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra, Leid Nasa V'chefzo Kol, Azai Melech, Shemo Nikra, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora, Sheni lehamshir lo leachbira v'li reshit v'li tachlit v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra v'hu eli v'chai go'ani v'tzur chemli v'etzara v'hu nisi Menakosi beyom ekra beyano afkir ruchi beiti shaneira beim ruchi geviati Adonai vi velo
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good to be with you.